Back to the stock portfolio update videos. Currently, my two stock portfolios sit at a combined value of just over 59,000 AUD. That's made up of the 35,881 AUD in my stake portfolio, which is the equivalent of 23,757 USD, and the 23,638 AUD in my Vanguard portfolio. Going through my portfolios, you can see nothing's changed in my stake positions. I haven't invested in anything or sold anything, but more on that later, as I will be hopefully making a decision of selling one of my positions. And in my Vanguard portfolio, I did actually recently purchase more into VGS, which I'll cover a bit in the future, of why I invested into that and how much I bought in. Going through the portfolio, currently I'm up 27%. And I'm just over $5,000 in the green, which is quite nice. It's a nice little mark for me. Again, the stock market's barely up today, so I'm up around $80. But overall, going through, you can see nothing's changed. In terms of returns, you can still see it's the same thing where the likes of Microsoft and JP Morgan are my best. And then even Amazon and the others kind of fill out the rest of it. Overall, my key positions, I'm still planning on staying the same. I will be investing some extra money into my stake portfolio next paycheck, but at the moment it's just kind of been staying steady. Even across this year, I've kind of relied on the gains because I haven't really been investing as much because I've had just general life stuff like paying for a holiday, new phones, dental, all this other stuff I've had to pay for. And so I've kind of been a little bit slack on it, but I've kind of been stuck almost at that $59,000 mark now. I'm at around $59,500. And the goal was to get to 60k by now, but hopefully I'll just keep investing and things will go up for me and I can get to 60k by maybe even the next video or even in a month's time or so. Overall, I do actually have some pending distributions, some dividends coming in for my Vanguard portfolio, which is nice. It will be around $223. I get quarterly dividends between my two positions I have, and yeah, it's not bad. My goal for this year was to get over $1,000 in dividends, which I think I should be on track to hit for this year. Granted, the end of year one and the half year one are typically a bit bigger because more companies are distributing at that time, but yeah, it's pretty good getting the 223. My plan for it is literally just to reinvest it right back into one of my positions. Like I said, I've recently been buying into VGS. The stock has actually come down recently. It just tracks pretty much the biggest companies across the world. I've showed it before, but it's had a really good year, up 30%. It's been reason why my portfolio has done so well. My VLC position is just covers the biggest stocks here in Australia. That's not done as well. It's still done good, but I get a larger dividend from that one, and I'm just trying to make it so both my positions are around 50% each, which I'll show later on my Excel spreadsheet. I'm slowly getting closer and closer to that mark as I keep depositing more into VGS. Today, one thing I really did want to go through is one of my biggest mistakes, which was actually one of my sales. If you've seen some older videos, or it's from years ago now, more than likely, I had a position in Meta, or also known as Facebook. And it was actually a decent sized position. It was bigger than my Costco position, bigger than my Google position. And if you've been following anything in the last few years, you've seen how well Meta's kind of rebounded. So I was an investor in Meta kind of around this time. This is when they had the whistleblower saga, and the stock just plummeted. It had pretty much like a 20% drop. And then it just went through this horrible period here where they were kind of going on and on about the things that weren't profitable, and then they kind of made a switch. I know they did an announcement kind of saying how they were one of the first to do the layoffs, and the stock has ripped. I mean, if you look just in the last year alone, it's up 140%. I've done some shorts on it, and even in the last 3 months, it's up 43%, because I looked at it when the price was here in the 300s, and I thought, oh, I've missed out. And since then, it's even gone up even further. One of my mistakes, and the reason why it's not a bad idea for me to sell things, but I sold Meta because I hadn't done enough research. I wasn't really 100% on my position, and I ended up selling it at a loss. I think I sold at a loss of around $500. Not a massive amount, but it was more the principal. And I ended up selling out the same time I sold out of some other stocks, so I just kind of wanted to clear that. And obviously, since the time of selling it, I have the money I put into like Microsoft and stuff has done well as well, but it probably would have been better for me to, even instead of selling, just investing more. But hindsight, it's easy to say that, but at the time, the stock had dropped a lot. If you speak to anyone, same with Netflix. I was never a Netflix investor, but when you speak to people who did, and they kind of went through that bad period, but it's been amazing this year. Netflix, Meta, all of that. And it's kind of taught me, this position has taught me that when I look at my holdings, I need to be 100% sure on everything I hold. For example, Apple is going through a bit of a rough time at the moment. If you can see, it's down 8% in the last 3 months, and just overall it's been trading up and down. I still feel the exact same way about this company as I did when it was 190. Yes, there's questions about its innovation and everything like that, but I still think it is a staple in pretty much everyone's portfolio, whether it's their retirements, their investments, whatever it is. Everyone has some exposure to Apple, and I'm not planning on selling my shares anytime soon. I actually did buy in a little while ago as it dipped down to the 170. I don't see myself selling out of it. If I kind of take a more long-term approach to it, it's not had the best returns over the last 3 years, but I think if you can buy in at the right times and not sell out when it's horrible, as I take a long-term approach over the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully it does well for me and I cannot make the same mistake I made with Meta. Same with some of my other holdings. I made similar mistakes with the likes of Amazon, where Amazon was down for a long time. If you look at the past 3 years, it's still only now getting back to the heights it was in 2021. And during this time, if you were buying in this time, same way with Meta, the last year for Amazon's up 83%. And really, what's really changed fundamentally in the business? So if someone had a really strong investment philosophy for Amazon and they had been buying in, then obviously it makes perfect sense. My Amazon position is so small because I only had a little bit of money to allocate somewhere and I just bought this. It's now up nearly 40%, which is only $22, but if I had invested more, I remember when this was down 10, 15%, and I was making decisions of where I wanted to invest my money, and I decided to put it elsewhere. If I had put it into Amazon, that's where I could have got more money. But again, hindsight is easy to say, kind of looking back, thinking, oh, I should have invested more into this. I could have put money into this instead of that. And even some investments like Google. Recently, I added to my position in Google after it's had a bit of a rough patch where it fell down after the bad launch of Gemini and everything like that. And I decided to invest a little bit more money into it. I'm now up close to 15%, so it's been good recently considering I was down, and the stock's really bounced back, depending on the time that you've bought it, obviously. But it's had a good year as well for investors. And even the last 3 years, again, haven't been horrible. It's done better than Apple has. But when I looked at it, I still think Google is the same strong company. Obviously, people think its search monopoly might go away a little bit, but they've got smart people there. They're not going to let that happen and lose that market share. They're obviously investing into AI themselves. And again, it's something I still feel comfortable holding this stock, especially when you look across the Magnificent 7. It had one of the lower PE ratios, and I was lucky enough to buy in. I think it was around like 130 when I bought in recently. So I've just been kind of growing my position. It's now sitting at around 1,500, and I'm planning on holding it for the foreseeable future. Others like JP Morgan, I did sell out of a little bit. I took a bit of gains in it. Don't think anything's really changed with the company. I still think it's a good company, but it was getting close to $200 a share, and my returns on it were quite good. You can see I'm up 52%, so it was good to just lock in some gains, and then I allocated that money into Apple and Google. So nothing's changed with any of that. And the final one I wanted to mention as well was McDonald's. I kind of kicked myself a little bit. When I bought McDonald's, it was around here. I purchased it in the 250s. Really, really good time to buy. It then shot up in the span of like a month. I was up nearly 15%. And I was considering just selling out. But I decided to hold on. And now it's kind of traded all the way back down. I'm still up 5%, but I was up, like you can see, in the span of a month. I could have just exited the position, taken the gains, put the money elsewhere, but I decided to hold on. So that was probably a bit of a mistake on my behalf, but it was a good opportunity for me. I spotted when it was in the dip and I bought in at a good time, a really good time actually. And now I've kind of just, it stood steady for a little bit and now it's dropped down. It's up again recently. Like if you look in the last day, it's up, but over the last week, down 3.5, 8% in the last month, and basically 8% in the last 3 months. So maybe it's a position I look at selling, but hopefully if it gets back into that 270s, 280s, I can exit it at a bit of a higher return. VOO is still obviously my biggest position, and Microsoft is my biggest individual holding. So those two have performed pretty good for me. Obviously, Microsoft has had an amazing past 3 months, up 13%, and past year up 47%. Even the past 3 years, 67%. And I constantly harp on about how I think Microsoft and Costco have the best business models in the world. Up 57%, it sometimes can feel hard to invest at these prices, especially when you look at the PE ratio, when you compare it to other positions that I can buy in it. But it seems for a lot of people, I try to tell myself when I see this as well, that I shouldn't be too stressed about, obviously you care about the price, but I've been investing now for 3 years, and some of the positions when I bought them back then seemed overpriced, but now I look back and it's kind of, if you can buy a quality company at a reasonable price and hold for a good amount of time, you should get good returns. But again, it's not financial advice or anything, it's just my kind of experience. And I'm nearly up $1,500 on this single Microsoft position alone, which is nice. I mentioned dividends before, but that's one good thing about growing your positions, is dividends. I'm not a dividend investor, especially not in my stake portfolio. That's something I cut out because I'm more focused on just capital gains. But getting those growing dividends is a nice feeling. I know, especially for VOO, that's where I get my biggest dividends for this portfolio, because my position's sitting at 11,641. So it's massive compared to my other positions. But it's nice getting dividend payments consistently growing with this. And the reason why my returns are a bit lower is because I've just been dollar cost averaging for years now, in and out. So just consistently putting money in. And that's why my returns probably aren't as good as some of my other positions, but it's been a good lesson for me. The good thing about investing as well is I don't take the money out. So it's a bit different to, like, I know a lot of my friends and stuff, you put into savings, sometimes you draw back from your savings. I don't really ever sell these positions, so it's almost like another way of just saving money away that I know I'm not going to touch. And then I can still make content on here, kind of holding myself accountable to keep investing. Going through my Vanguard positions, like I said, I am expecting some dividends, which will be nice. I did receive my biggest dividends still from, I'll go through it in the Excel spreadsheet from last year, but if I can get over $1,000 in dividends, that'll be good. Plus my stake dividends. My goal was actually to get it closer to 1.5, even closer to 2, but I'd really have to ramp up my investing and put more money in. And like I said, the start of this year has been quite slow for me. I haven't been investing as much. Looking at my Excel spreadsheet, you can see this is kind of the breakdown of how things are weighted and everything like that. You can see after I've invested money into my Australian portfolio recently, my international shares is up to 45%. So I'm trying to get that to 50-50, which is good. And you can see kind of this is how it's been tracking. It's been a nice steady uptick for my stake portfolio and my Vanguard portfolio as I've consistently been investing, which is just what you want to see. It's always nice for me going back to some of my old videos as well for when the portfolio was a lot smaller and comparing it to now, because at times it feels like you're kind of putting money in but you don't see any real gains or you don't see any real outcome. When you compare it to back then and you see your dividends are bigger, like for example, my portfolio will go down 2%, which doesn't feel big in a day, especially back in the day, and it'll be down hundreds of dollars. But I guess you just kind of tell yourself it's just numbers on a screen, and this is kind of how it's looking. In regards with dividends, like I said, hopefully this year I can crack $1,000. I should be able to, because my next dividend's in the 200, and then just the Vanguard alone should take me close to 1,000. And then all the stake ones is just extras. Last month in March was a really good month because I did get the VOO dividend, which took it up to 49, and this is all in USD. So as I convert it back, hopefully I should be able to crack 1,500 this year. That's kind of it. I just wanted to do a quick update on how things were. kind of speak about my mistakes of what I've sold previously and the likes of Meta and even Amazon. And the goal is still to get to that 60k mark. Hopefully my next video or the one after that, I'll have hit that, and then I can keep going until I get to that 100k mark, which is the one people always speak about. But that's all for now. Cheers.